there, everybody. It's Michael Osinski.
And it's Tyler Esselman.
And you are listening to This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11. It's our podcast where we invite someone on each week to make their case for what they believe is a perfect album.
So perfect that 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
It hasn't been good enough, ever. It never was.
Never, never, never.
Uh-uh.
Tyler, and I realize by asking this question there might be things you can't tell me in response to this question, but did you enjoy cast parties?
Yeah, I did enjoy cast parties. We had our thing when a show closed is we would go to Steak and Shake. That was the if you're familiar with the hamburger chain around the Midwest.
I am familiar, and if they sponsored us, I'd be okay with that, unless they've got some sort of political affiliation that we don't like. Anyway, keep going.
God knows they probably do. But we would always go to one of the 3 Steak and Shakes on Lindbergh Boulevard in South County, St. Louis, and we would just grab a couple booths and be there in our makeup and hairspray and all those things and make an absolute scene. And they had these cherry peppers or like pepperoncinis that would be in like a little bottle on the table, and inevitably somebody would get dared to eat one or more of those, and it ended in disaster usually.
Yeah. Well, luckily you could have a shake to calm down the spice after that.
Yeah, those two things canceled each other out pretty well. But yeah, we had a great time at those, and I would say that was kind of the extent of those cast parties. They didn't get nuts, but your history with cast parties is well documented on this podcast, isn't it?
Well, I mean, in college anyway, because we would have cast parties after, because we'd have 5 shows a semester. And so there would be a cast party after every single one. And leading up to the ultimate cast party called the Duds Ball, the Drew University Dramatic Society Ball at the end of the whole year, which would be themed. And we'd have to deck out the Commons Theater with themed decorations. It was crazy. I will say, not that, we ever drank and were underage at these parties,
Never.
But there was one drink that this one guy used to make whenever he would bartend the parties. It was called the Boom Boom, which was, I think it was amaretto, cranberry juice, and Sprite, maybe.
That actually sounds kind of nice.
It was super sweet, but for someone who at that point in my life, if I were going to drink alcohol, it had to be a dessert. So
right.
I enjoyed that.
Make it as easy a vehicle. It had to go down really smooth.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's my cast party history. But,
the boom.
Yes. And our guest this week definitely would remember what I'm talking about regarding that specific beverage.
Yes.
We are talking to my friend from college, Deidre Purcell. Deidre is the producing director at Watertown Children's Theater and a freelance performer, director, and sometimes playwright. She's also a trained therapist and a PhD dropout. Gemini Sun, Taurus Moon, Scorpio Rising, INTJ, Enneagram 5, Manifesting Generator. Come on. It's like she understood the assignment. This whole bio thing going on
It's true. That's a good one.
Do you know your Myers-Briggs? I know. I think it's problematic now. I think for some reason, but did you ever do your Myers-Briggs?
It's not science-based. But I'm an
What?
INFJ. I'm an INFJ, and I'm a Type 2 Enneagram.
Type 4 over here.
What's the archetype for 4?
The individualist, I think.
Okay, I'm the helper.
Ugh,
yeah, God.
That scans. Yeah. Well, we should do a whole special episode about that. Anyway,
we could. Deidre's such a good time, and we had a great time talking about this album, which is a slice of nostalgia and a slice of a very particular period of time. I feel like in folk rock. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, I was very familiar with this album already because of where I went to college and the people that I hung out with. But yeah, but
it was new for me.
A joy.
Yeah, a total joy. So without any further ado, let's get into it, shall we?
Let's shall. Deidre Purcell, welcome to This One Goes to 11. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. It's Sunday morning. It's chill,
Dear listeners, we are recording this on Palm Sunday, for those of you who celebrate, which, if I'm not mistaken, I believe both of you will remember this. It's the day when church becomes theater. Is that correct? Everyone's reading along with the Passion or something like that.
There's props. There's props.
There are props.
I love a good prop. Necessary. Well, we like to invoke our religious backgrounds a lot on this this podcast, Deidre, as you might know. Very formative for us both on a interior psychological level and a creative level. But the album that you have brought before us today, I would say, also has this sort of interiority and this sort of rich literary substance to us. So let's not keep our listeners in suspense any longer. Tell us, what album hath thou brought before This One Goes to 11 tribunal today?
Today I have brought Indigo Girls' Rites of Passage.
Ooh.
Not a single surprise from this guy over here. This is not... As someone who knew you in college, this scans, as I like to say.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I met up with Laura Williams and her husband last month, and they were trying to guess, and I had to work on my poker face to not give it away.
What you're saying is that they knew, basically. They knew it was going to be something like this.
Philip definitely guessed, but I did not tell him. I did not confirm or deny.
Oh, we appreciate that. That's all part of the charade we have going here. Well, I hadn't listened to this. I hadn't listened to this album ever. This was my first.
Oh wow!
This was my first introduction to this album, and it was great. And I'm really excited to hear the case that you built for this. But Deidre, you're aware that this is a competition. That this is very serious business. So you're gonna have to pull out all the stops and really update us on why this album in particular is perfect.
Well, as Michael probably remembers, I really like to be right, so I'm happy to make an argument.
Perfect.
Wow. But wait, before you start making your argument, as you also know as a listener of the pod, you get to evaluate our case, or in particular, Tyler's case, because Tyler's going to handle a little segment we like to call...
The Beginner's Guide to Indigo Girls' Rite of Passage in 60 seconds.
Rites of Passage, Tyler. Rites of Passage.
Sorry. Man. Rites of Passage.
Already losing points, man.
Yeah, don't judge me too harshly yet. Judge me harshly after you hear this piece of work I've got prepared for you. I think it's pretty good. I think it captures the spirit. That's all I'm trying to do is capture the spirit in this endeavor. So we'll see what you think. And a reminder that you can go as Montessori as you want with this. Go any sort of grading terms that feel right to you. Really let me know how I did. Okay.
All right.
60 seconds on the clock. Ready, Tyler?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go.
The story of femfolk icons Indigo Girls starts where every good story should, the very beginning. We're talking elementary school. Amy Ray and Emily Saliers met as wee kids in and around Decatur, Georgia, and started making music in high school. Their undeniable, irrepressible connection would continue as students at Emory University, where weekly gigging at the Dugout Bar provided the laboratory necessary for them to hone their songwriting voices. The words literary and personal and vulnerable are never very far when Indigo Girls are invoked, and for good reason. Rites of Passage, their fourth studio album, saw them recruit the talents of a whole mess of sterling collaborators, including Sarah Lee of Gang of Four, Budgie of Susie and the Banshees, Jackson Browne, and David Crosby. The effort peaked at number 21 on the Billboard 200 and is considered a successful merging of their pure folk chops with an accessible pop sensibility. These days, they're still at it. They're being wicked smart, wicked outspoken, living and breathing music, and bringing it to the people.
All right.
I undershot it a little bit again this week.
That's okay. That's all good. That's all good. Well, Deidre, how do you do? What's your take on that intro?
Well, honestly, having done little background research of my own on Indigo Girls, I learned some things.
Oh, great.
So I think we'll give it a 95 out of 100.
95 out of 100. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
For 60 seconds, listen, I'm happy with that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But Deidre, you are a figure in Michael's life that from the college days, as I understand it, which is a a community of people I'm always happy to have as a guest on the podcast.
She's part of the mic crowd. She's the mic. She's one of the mic people.
Exactly. We love our mic crowd. So with that, we would love to hear a little bit more about you before we dig into the album itself. We'd love to hear a little bit about what your relationship with music is like. It can be on a high level, can be on a minute kind of detailed level. How does music live in your life?
I cannot remember a time when I have not been deeply connected to music in multiple ways. I grew up in a house where there was a lot of music. My father is a drummer. He spent his time in drum corps and teaching color guard. And so he brought a lot of that energy into our house. I also grew up with a lot of church music. And in fact, church music is how Mike and I met, because we met preparing to sing and play at Catholic Mass on campus.
Wait a minute. Are you a handbells person? Are we talking handbells? Okay.
Nope, just a singer.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was playing the piano and I was singing for Mass.
No kidding. Man, a part of your college experience I wasn't aware of, Michael.
It was a short period, and then
both of us.
Yeah, and then we became theater friends. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So drum corps, though, that was you. Were you also a marching band, color guard kind of? Were you in that scene as well?
I was in band. I did not march. I was a flute player for most of my life. Picked up some brass along the way. Nice. Have always been a singer, sang in choirs, musical theater. Have been working in children's theater for most of my adult life, supporting other people doing musical theater, and have recently started performing again myself. So
that's great.
The fun thing about this is my mom is tone deaf. When the nuns tried to teach her to play piano, they couldn't figure out for years why she couldn't memorize music, and then they realized she couldn't tell the notes apart.
Quite literally. Yeah. Whoa. So, I'm gonna give your mom 1,000 points just for good measure. Like, we see you. We see it has to be hard to be tone deaf.
So every year in church choir, they'd be like, "Your mom should sing with us," and I'd be like, "No, she should not."
And she knew it, right?
Oh yeah, she knows.
Okay.
She knows.
Just making sure.
Yeah, and all of us, all of the 4 kids, we all sing, me more seriously than the others, but we all sing, we all are connected to music. So, I mean, my mom likes music. She just is not particularly musical.
Yeah. What were some of the church songs you remember? Like, because it's always interesting. It's always interesting to me if there's a bit of an age difference between me and Michael, as is well documented on this podcast. But it's always interesting to me if you're more like a in Latin kind of church music crowd, or if you're Our God is an Awesome God kind of church music. There's a little qualitative difference there that I find instructive.
So I grew up in the 80s Catholic Church, which was very like, we're going to play the guitar and try to be hip Catholic Church.
Nice.
We sang a lot of Amy Grant in youth stuff. I am familiar with Our God is an Awesome God.
It's a good song.
Because I also was a little bit involved with Christian Fellowship in college, where they thought, of course, as a Catholic, I was very strange. So I was mostly there for the praise and worship music because it's fun.
Yeah. You know which one I love? How Great Thou Art. That's that one. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. That's a banger. I would go so far as to say it's a church banger.
That was a staple. That was a staple at my church. Yep.
We are also in the season where in a week from the day that we are recording this, a mutual friend of all of ours, Meg Williams, I will be texting her. Well, one of us will text the other and we'll text Christ the Lord is risen today, and then it will be the other person's response to say hallelujah. Yeah. So we're at that part of the year.
I think maybe at some point we're just asking for like an in-depth series on lapsed Christians or Catholics and their later in life theater tendencies. You know, the ritual, the ceremony of it all, and how our Christian upbringing kind of informed that. I think I could see that being a very interesting pod series.
Yeah. Well, I directed Godspell last year, which is a musical of my life. And definitely I was like, wow, this is bringing together a whole lot of threads.
Yeah, man.
I would have thought that if we weren't talking about Indigo Girls today, I would have thought maybe like the Godspell cast recording would have been another option for you. Because that's also a musical I always associate with you.
Yes. I mean, the 2000 Off-Broadway cast of Godspell is woven into me.
Yeah.
So I thought about it. But also in the connection between Indigo Girls and musicals, there is an album of the Indigo Girls doing Jesus Christ Superstar.
Wait, what?
I missed that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The Indigo Girls recorded covers of the Jesus Christ Superstar soundtrack.
Okay, that's great. I'm good. I'm going to put that on rotation. I love that.
Huh. All right. Well, this feels like an excellent segue. So we're curious to know, how was it that you discovered this artist, and in particular this album? And was it at Drew University? That's my question.
So I have been thinking about this because I don't actually know. I am fairly certain that the first track I heard was Galileo. Yeah. And so the odds are high that it was at a Drew University cast party.
Yes.
But I don't know for sure.
50,000 points for just even mentioning a Drew University cast party, because those are cast parties I wish I could time travel back to.
If you have a taste for boxed wine, you have a great time.
I actually did in college, so this is it's checking all the boxes.
So I don't know 100% when I first encountered it, but I'm pretty sure the first thing I heard was Galileo at some point in the late 90s, most likely at Drew. My sister Karen is also an Indigo Girls fan, but I'm pretty sure she did not introduce me.
Were you already into similar music? Was this sort of like an easy fit, or was this something that just struck you as being I don't know, amazing or revolutionary? Or I mean, what had your experience with, I guess, pop? I don't know if I'd call them pop though, but you know how we feel about genre around here. How did they fit in with what you were already listening to?
I mean, I guess I would call them folk pop.
I like that.
And so my deep roots were a lot of Peter, Paul, and Mary albums.
Okay.
Which definitely ties in. And I was already listening to, I guess, the Lilith Fair genre of Tori Amos, Sarah McLachlan, Ani DeFranco. So those folks were already in the rotation. And then I think, honestly, from there, I went kind of deeper into folk territory for a while and went down to Dar Williams, the Nields, Melissa Ferrick, that route. So it's all connected.
Yeah. It's reading about Lilith Fair in preparation for this, because Lilith Fair, I feel like it looms large in the kind of 90s folk tapestry, I guess you could say. But I didn't really know much about it. It sounded like, looking at the lineups, it looks like an absolutely insane time. And also it's hard for me to imagine what a festival like that would be. Just so much, how it feels like it would be so different from our other stereotypical ideas of a music festival. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I never went, but I definitely if you look at the lineups, that probably was most of the music I owned at that time.
Yeah. It checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah. And it for me, I think like, I definitely grew up with more like pop. Like, I listened to, you know, the same things everybody listened to in the 90s. There was Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men and Alanis Morissette and Lisa Loeb, and then it just got like kind of folkier as I moved into college. And I mean, and let's face it, like you're a queer woman in the early 90s, this is what you're listening
to. And it's still, what's amazing is that it still feels like that. It still feels so, just like in 2024, it still feels so femme queer in like a pretty present way. You know, like it doesn't really feel like there's a replication of this kind of particular femme queer energy right now. It's very different, at least. You know, maybe it's more in hip hop or in some other kind of like subset of this music that that I'm not privy to, but I feel like it's still very it's stood the test of time in some ways. Would you agree with that?
I think it's very specific, and it still feels relevant. Like in preparation for this, have been listening obviously to this album, but also just kind of pulling in other things I was listening to at the time, and it all feels like it holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's also something to, I mean, re-listening to this, I was just struck by how it feels like this album and a couple others around this one in their discography just feel like masterclasses in songwriting, because I mean, there's not like in some of the songs, the lyrics and the music blend so well together. Every single word is important. The lyrics sound smart and poetic. Like, they manage to rhyme things in ways that are it's just uncanny. And the harmonies between the two of them, I mean, Jesus, it's amazing to me to sort of rediscover them, because I hadn't been listening to them in a while, but they're having a bit of a resurgence now, I guess, maybe, if only because of the Barbie movie.
Sure.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't know how many Zoomers out there are going to go pick up Rites of Passage, but maybe they will after this.
I think they should.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is the craft in, I think, maybe not every song, but most of them is pretty impressive. And not just this album, I would say in general. Like, they're really, like, I spend time with a lot of songwriters, and like, I see how hard that work is, and they make it look easy.
Yeah. Almost natural, like almost like a kind of instinctual thing.
Yeah.
I was reading an interview with Brandi Carlile about her experience, being obsessed with Indigo Girls, and then also eventually getting to meet them, and talking about their songwriting process and the process in the studio. It does feel a little odd, right? It feels a little bit like they couldn't really. It's almost irreplicable. What's the word? You can't replicate it. Like you can't, because she was saying like Emily knows how to harmonize, but then Amy doesn't really know how to harmonize and can only really sing what she believes is a melody, and that it's not being influenced by what Emily is singing, which I think is like kind of crazy that you just have these two people that met that just happen to be able to do that with their own musical skill set, and create that. It feels sort of like kismet, right?
Well, I mean, if you get sheet music for their songs, like the harmonies aren't written in, because I don't know that they write them. I think they just hear them.
Yeah. It's kind of like me and Michael, what we do on here. We're just harmonizing. We can't explain how it happens. It just does.
I think my introduction to this, I mean, like, I feel like they also have a really strong live album, which I don't. Is it 1200 or is it 12 o'clock curfews?
I think it's 1200.
That's what I thought. There's no colon there, but you never know. They might just, like military time. I don't know, or something like that. but like, I mean, that's got. I was re-listening to that this morning, and that sort of captures what am I trying to say here? You know, when you discover an artist who, when you listen to their studio albums, you're like, man, they couldn't get any better than this. And then you listen to their live recording, and they replicate the quality of the studio recording, but then they also take it up a notch. And that's just who they are. I feel like they're just such great musicians, which is not something I can always say about some of the artists we cover on this podcast, frankly. Sometimes I think they're more performers, and these two feel like they're both performers and musicians.
Yeah. I mean, I've only seen them live once, but like there's the musicianship and there's also just this like energy that they bring to the space. And I think some of that is the fans that they attract. That it is just such a positive, like, vibe, for lack of a better word. But like seeing them live is like a completely different experience than most other concerts. Like it's just different energy, and it's so positive, and it's really lovely.
What's funny is that this was also what was said about Tori Amos, right? This is a very similar sentiment to saying like there is a sacred, very particular kind of energy that these performers are able to create that takes your live music viewing experience to another level. And that's something about these ladies. These ladies got it. They got that thing.
Yeah, Tori puts on a good show.
You've also seen Tori, huh?
We saw Tori together.
We saw Tori together.
Yeah, yep. on the Alanis and Tori tour, right? Isn't that when we saw her?
In Camden.
Yes, in Camden, New Jersey, with Jenny
Cantuzzi
and Jimmy Daly.
Oh
and Paulie Knuckles was there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
okay,
man.
you get 1,000,000 points for your New Jersey, your night in New Jersey with Alanis and Tori.
Yeah.
We got lost too. We got lost trying to get out of Camden.
Oh God, of course.
Did. That makes sense. I imagine I've never seen them live, but that scans that like you leave an Indigo Girls concert and like your face would hurt from all the smiling you've been doing, because it's just so much joy in there.
Yeah, and when people sing along, it's like not obnoxious because everyone's doing it and they're mostly on key.
Yeah.
Was Camden a common place for acts like that to perform, or because one of the other things that Brandy said in this interview about them was that one of the things she always respected so much is how they wouldn't necessarily always go to the places that, they weren't always just going to big cities. They'd go to Door County, Wisconsin, or they'd go to, a random place where they knew they had a community of people who wanted to hear their music. But is a place like the places you've seen Indigo Girls, has it mostly just been in your metropolitan city centers, or has it been in like weird little places?
I saw them at the Cape Cod Melody Tent.
There you go. That's exactly what I wanted you to say. Then you get 3,000,000 points for a place being called the Cape Cod Melody Tent.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't see them playing that camp. Well, I guess I sort of could have seen them playing Camden in their heyday. Like, but it feels like you want to, I don't know, it feels like you want to sit on the lawn for an Indigo Girls show.
Like, I don't think I'd go see them at Fenway.
No. Sure. No. They wouldn't fit that space, right? Or like it's not there. They could fit it, I'm sure, and I'm sure they could sell it the hell out. But like the sound wouldn't be right for Fenway.
Yeah. The Melody Tent is like, it's like in the round, and it's pretty small. So like all the seats feel like they're pretty close to the stage.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was a great place to see them.
That's what we like. All right. Well, I think we've also left the listeners in suspense long enough. Let's just listen to a little Indigo Girls, shall we? Deidre, can you tell us what you chose as your standout track from Rites of Passage? Sorry.
So while I think the conventional choice probably would be Galileo, I opted for Virginia Woolf.
Cool. Well, say no more. We're going to listen to it now. Listeners, if you are on Spotify or YouTube, you'll hear the whole thing. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you'll hear just a little snippet. But either way, we'll see you in just a moment.